Hi, Lisa. I am so happy that we're finally sitting down to this conversation because I know that you keep it real, and I've just from just having recently been introduced to you through a mutual friend, I'm just like, I love you. You're amazing. You say the
Thank you.
truthy things.
Oh my God, thank you. I do. And I really appreciate it when other people do too, because I'm so sick of the pretending. And it's interesting to notice like the ways in which I also was pretending.
Yeah.
This year has, the way I've been describing it is unraveled me from the inside out. And there are new awarenesses that I have around how I've been showing up. And so I'm 100% here for just the like, let's just say it. Let's call it exactly as it is. It's
Yeah.
not bullshit around.
Yeah.
No pretending necessary because we're just all human. And the struggle is really real. And we think that there's something wrong with us when we feel some kind of way and we look to the left and we look to the right and we look up and we look down and we like look all around because we're disoriented and we're like, what the fuck, is it only me? No, it's just everybody is pretending that it's not them too, and it's
Right.
so destructive to humanity and blocks healing in a billion ways. And I'm but it's scary, it's
Yeah.
also scary.
I've talked about it as a sort of like subtle shaming and gaslighting
Hmm.
of people. Like when we show up in sort of this like, I have it together. Yes, I have healed, or I'm done with my process, or I don't struggle, or I don't suffer. Then we're really gaslighting people. We're lying to them essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're lying
And
like big
yeah.
lies that look like small lies.
Yeah. And like I have like when people lie to me, like it's a massive trigger. And so when I feel any of that, I'm just like, I want to fucking burn it down. I want to tear it down. I mean, like, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. And a lot of my writing recently has been around like, this is bullshit, because I
Yeah.
just want to like clear the decks. I want to like get up on the like very neatly decorated and set table and just kick off all the plates and be like, Rah!
I love that that's your approach. My approach has been like, all right, bitches, I'll go first. I'm not okay. This has been a really fucking hard year. My business is like in the shitter. Everything feels bad. I'm having panic attacks. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you're not gonna, fine. I'll go first. I guess that's what being a leader is. And
Right, right. Yes, yes. And you posted something on Facebook that just so inspired me. That inspired me to invite you. And it was about this year, the journey of this year. And I was writing that same post. I was like preparing it in my brain and in my body. I was like getting ready to just sort of say the thing. And you went first.
I did. Do you remember what was in there? Because I've been
Yeah,
trying to
you
do
were.
this in different ways, and I'm just so curious what
Yeah.
resonated. Because honestly, like I'll go ahead and just admit, like I need to know that that level of vulnerability mattered, and in what kind of way, because it gives me courage to keep doing it.
Absolutely. It did fucking matter, because what resonated with me is that you said something about the tools that you were used to using stopped working. And I was like, oh my God, that fucking happened to me this year. Like all the tools that I was teaching other people went out the fucking window. And like, thank goodness that I'm scrappy as fuck, because I went to get other tools
Right.
that did work, but it was like it was took work and effort. And every morning for me felt like I had, like the kitchen drawer, like the messy kitchen drawer, that one drawer that's like a fucking mess in your kitchen. That's what my brain felt like every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I had to clean out that kitchen drawer every morning to be able to show up in my fuck yes. And I found my fuck yes, but it was a cleaning process. And I had to take out more time out of my day to process all that, and then to rest from processing all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I finally got to the point to where I would wake up and I would just lay in bed and I just let myself just lay there and not get up, like just avoid the day. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't. I don't even want to do it, right? Like that part of me, the like resistant teenager. And then of course I want to show up and I love the work that I do. And I've built a beautiful life. And even though things have been really, really, really hard, it was like, okay, well, what's the one thing? Can I just do like one thing? Maybe I'll shower. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we actually get to the point to where things are so very hard, where we don't have energy or capacity. I've had such an exacerbation of my PTSD symptoms this year
Yeah.
that my system was so activated and I was trying the things and they weren't working. And it just finally came down to like, okay, well, I only have this level of concentration. I have a list of things to do, I have things that I care about, but how do I honor where I'm at, which is I can't concentrate and I'm going to create harm by making myself sit here and do this.
Exactly. Exactly.
And also honor the things that I really did want to deliver, the ways in which I did want to show up.
Yeah.
Like this year, I had to make a really concrete choice of like, I am not going to give my power away to the fact that this is where I'm at. So I'm not
Hmm.
going to stop and I'm not going to hide and I'm not going to become powerless because this is what I'm moving through. But I'm
Yeah.
going to figure out how the fuck to do it when I don't have much to resource right now. Like in the past, I've always just like not shown up, shut down, stopped being in my leadership.
Yeah.
And this year, I'm like, no, this thing isn't going to get me like that. Not this year. That's a whole different
Awesome.
journey.
Yeah. 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 I relied on a lot of, friendship supports this year. I lost a lot of friends this year also, which was part of my difficulty.
Sure.
My personal relationships, not, personal relationship. I'm all about intimacy and relationships. And I just lost a lot of connections that were important to me. And that was a lot like a big grief process. And one thing that rattled me more than anything, like on the identity level, was that my gender changed this year. As I was saying to you before we started recording, I was like, I've been really like my crone. I've been sort of moving from mother archetype into crone, and in that process, like my gender identity changed,
Hmm.
and I no longer relate to the word woman. Like that whole thing is just sort of like lost on me.
Hmm.
All of the pussy based stuff you see out in the coaching world, it's just like I can't relate to it anymore. And so then it was kind of like, where the fuck am I? Like really, that sort of that question started coming in for me, like I don't know where I am anymore,
Hmm.
or where I fit into this coaching space.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills. That's a lot when we have identity shifts at that level.
Yeah.
The way I'm relating to that is like there's ways in which we know ourselves. And when that changes, which is a natural evolution of humanity or self discovery or
Yeah.
healing
Yeah.
or even aging, like
Yes.
it's all of it.
Yeah.
Mine was realizing, and maybe this is an age thing for me, but I thought I had myself figured out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like I thought I just moved through a lot of ego death
Yeah.
of like, okay, I'm going to just release and relinquish everything that I thought I knew to be true about myself.
Yes.
Then I'm just going to deal with what's here right now. And I'm glad that I had created some tools so that I could do that. But when our identity shifts, then we need to reevaluate literally everything about how we orient in the world. And
Yes.
I was raised in a religious cult, and I left that group when I think I was 25. And I remember, I didn't know what clothes to wear. This was a very strict religious system.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to like dress myself. I didn't know how to do my hair. I didn't know what I like. All of a sudden, jewelry was an option for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know where I belonged. And then it was like when you have a structure of self, and so you're saying your identity around like going from she, her to they, them. I see your pronouns here.
Hmm.
That requires a reevaluation of absolutely everything. And
Yeah.
it is a very discombobulating experience to go through.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I didn't realize that was a part of your year.
Yeah, that was this year. And it was, I mean, it had, I was always fluid, but it had never, it was almost like a peripheral awareness. And all of a sudden it's right here. And you're like, oh, whoa, I didn't see you there. You were back here and you were happily tucked away back there and no longer like, did you want to remain back there? You wanted to
Mm,
sort of face forward or be front facing. So yeah, and I think that it's really like, something else that you wrote in that post that really it really hit me was that the terror that we as leaders feel to share when we're struggling, because we fear losing credibility, we fear losing respect, we fear losing followers or whatever it fucking means to like not have people respect you or support you. I don't know, but I just think it's so important to yeah, to lead with our humanity, to
mhm,
just to share what's actually going on, and to still like, you don't have to spill your guts out into the world while you're in the process of it, but there is a responsibility to be congruent. There's a responsibility to be um coherent, in the sense that there's a match between what's happening here in the front and what's happening here in the back, because when we hide, it's exhausting. I think that's where we really, like you said, we hurt ourselves.
mhm. Yeah. Well, I like that you use the word congruency because I've been trying to name that and I didn't realize that that was the word I was searching for in my brain. Like, I hosted an event recently called, I basically was like, I'm not okay and you probably aren't either. So it was this virtual retreat day, like, it's okay to not be okay. And I had planned this event. I'd known that I was going to do this event for months, had the date set, and it just kept
Wow.
coming and coming. And meaning I knew I was going to do a virtual retreat day on this date as a way to help people kind of connect with me because I was going to invite people to join my membership program, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an
Yeah.
offering within the membership program.
Yeah.
So it keeps coming and it keeps coming. And I'm literally like, my team is like, Lisa, you've got to figure out what you're going to do. We have to start marketing it. Like, there is a certain amount of time where, like, people need to know to come.
Yeah.
I know. No, no, no. I know. And I couldn't I couldn't decide what to do because there wasn't anything else other than naming I'm not okay and you're probably not either, and let's just talk about how we move through, which
Yeah.
has been what I have been practicing all year,
Yeah.
but I haven't been publicly talking about up until recently because it was so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I was practicing moving through, like being in it. Because
Yeah.
in the past, I was like, oh, let's just go ahead and go handle that over here. And then we'll come over here. And then we'll
Hmm.
be this leader that's got things to share and things, like things to offer.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have that. And I was like, I will be out of integrity if I try to do any other bullshit on this day.
Yeah.
And I also put in my marketing, like, I don't have the answer for you. Like, this is how you do it.
Hmm.
No, I'm
Hmm.
just going to tell you the things that I've been challenged with and what I've practiced and tried.
Yeah.
And let's also just normalize the fact that there are really good reasons why we're not okay.
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
solid, important reasons. It's not because there's something wrong with us. It's not because we've had previous life experiences. It's not because we're broken. It's because systems are fucked up, our humanity is not being acknowledged, And leaders don't, I'm so pissed about it. Like, we don't get to honor our humanity simultaneously while we show up for other people. Like, why does it have to be so scary? It is terrifying. It's
Mm-hmm.
really scary. And I think a big part of that, and this has been true for me, so everybody can evaluate for themselves when I say this,
Mm-hmm.
it has not been safe for me to honor my humanity and to show my humanity as a leader. And okay, is that
Yeah.
how I wanted to say
Yeah.
that? Let me
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
yeah, so this is what I mean. Not being okay has not been safe for me.
Okay.
So it took me a very long time to get to the point to where I was able to acknowledge to myself that I was actually not okay.
Okay.
Because not
Got
being
it.
okay has been very unsafe
Got it.
a lot of the time in my life.
Yes.
So um, and I was just holding that off. And I think that that's why my panic attack started. I haven't had panic attacks since I was in my 20s. And all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm having like 3 big ones a week. I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God. But I think my system was like, dude, you're not okay. You're not
Yeah.
okay. Hello.
Right.
Hello.
Tuk, 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 tuk.
We're just gonna, and then,
Let's press the button.
right, we'll knock and poke, and then we'll just knock your door down.
Here's a big alarm bell for you, Lisa.
And I teach this stuff. I mean,
Right, right, right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so powerful to hear you say it hasn't felt safe. It hasn't felt safe for me to be not okay.
Mhm.
Right? That's yeah.
Well, it hasn't been.
Yeah.
I've been working with that with my therapist this year. Thank God I found an amazing therapist. It took 7 months to get there, and I had to fire 2 people along the way. The thing that's interesting is like I'm really educated. I've worked in mental health. I know
Yeah.
myself really well. Like I need a really qualified person. There's not a lot of really qualified trauma
Yeah.
professionals out there. And when you know what you're doing and you know what you need and that person doesn't show up, it was like, wow. And then that was really vulnerable. Like, hello, I need your support, please. Oh, you suck. Okay. Let's try again. And again, I don't therapists get to be human. And what I mean with you suck is this isn't a match
Yeah.
and I need to find the right match for me, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
claim that. Um, so yeah, it's been really interesting to notice that there have been some things shifted in my life where I am now in a safe enough place in my life where I can confront some things and grieve some things and acknowledge some things that I haven't before in my life been able to do in
Hmm.
like really big ways that it makes me emotional just thinking about like, oh,
Hmm.
oh.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I really agree that there was something about this year, like, my divorce finalized in November. I did like a big ayahuasca journey in January because I knew that I was holding a lot from that whole process, and I did do a lot of release work in January. And then I feel like that opened me up to all of the other shit that I hadn't felt ready to dive into was now available for me to dive into. And that was the kitchen, right? The kitchen drawer that was just full of junk that I had to clear out,
Hmm.
so yeah. And like when you put it in the context of the pandemic as well, like all of what we held in 2020 and 2021, just kind of like when things started to open up, like in March and April, you felt there was this kind of like, right. And that's when the nervous system goes, all right, now we can, now we can do all this. And right. And also astrologically too, I feel like we were all like in this shadow portal where like the
Hmm.
stuff that I was dealing with, like pure, like deep, dark shadow work,
Hmm.
like all like dissolving all of my smallness, like that's sort of on the the minimal end of things, and sort of the big stuff is like the ancestral, like really deep, the part of me that wants to push people away, that part of me that's just like, oh, get away from me, like just really like aggressive, um and then having to find my heart, like find my way back into my heart and into like my service
Mm.
and how I want to lead, and leading with the truth of that, and using that, right, the gnarly shit in service,
Mm.
right? I think that is the balance of like, that's leadership for me right now, is like, let's talk about the gnarly stuff and let me talk about it in a way that supports you,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about the fear that we have as leaders of not being okay, of losing respect, because I feel like that is sort of where we get stuck. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking about this so much. Um, there's so many things that come up. Like, uh, it's risky. And I think as people who either identify as women or have identified as women or are in bodies that have uteruses, we have been conditioned for, I mean, there's so much socialization and conditioning and like generations of um, legitimate consequences to
Yes.
showing our emotions and um, holding our ground and telling the truth and doing things differently. Or,
Hmm.
um, I don't know, it's just so a part of it is like in us, right? And then there's the very real thing that happens. Like one of the things that I've been noticing for a couple years, because I try to be so very transparent, is that
Yeah.
like when I go to try to share something about my not okayness, whether it's current or past or whatever, people jump in and try to fix and save me. And I'm
Yes.
just like, I don't need your help. I know how to like source myself. Like this is this I'm showing you my humanity because I believe that we need to share our humanity so that we recognize that these things are normal.
Yeah.
And so like that's an icky thing to manage
Yeah.
and to deal with. Or the like the message I was thinking about the other day of like the well, of course people don't respect you anymore because you blah blah blah, so it's your fault. Well, that
Mm.
also feels like, well, if X, Y, and Z happened to you and then the blame was placed on you rather than the abuser, right? It's
Yes.
like there's some and I'm spinning off from what you said a little bit, but it's like there's also this intersection of like trauma response that comes in not being okay and sharing that we're not okay because we're also blamed that we're the reason why we're not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so there's, yeah, of course, there's a lot of fear in there, but that fear is really fucking tricky to pin down. It's like, I've been thinking a lot about threat perception. I'm like,
Hmm.
what's the perceived threat here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're afraid we're not going to make money and we're afraid that people won't respect us and we're afraid that our expertise will be questioned or blah, blah, blah. But we're all just seeking connection. And I think the world now is really craving humanity, like honesty around humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's not a linear response.
No, it doesn't matter, because I hear what you're saying. I hear the like, we're so hungry for truth. We're so hungry for truth. We've been like bullshitted for such a long time, and we're so fucking over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like what people are really craving is an accurate mirror,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is a real reflection. When I think about, you know, parents raising babies and the attunement process that happens there, and having parents reflect the baby's reality back to them, like when the baby falls and gets hurt, and instead of the parents being like, you're okay, nothing happened, right, which is a lie, which is gaslighting, right, at a micro level, we want that reflection of like, yes, you're hurt. It
Yes.
hurts.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Right? Let me hold you. Are you okay? Right? And of course, like supporting the resilience of this baby, like you're gonna be okay, and you're hurt right now. Yes,
Right.
cry.
Right.
We are as adults, we're wanting some mirror, right? In the leadership, I feel like we have a responsibility to be an accurate mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing you say. I just wanted to say it in a different way.
Yeah, and I feel like that's connecting some dots in my brain as well. And it's like, um, I think the fear is that up until now, when we've been transparent about our not okayness, that's then needs fixed.
Yes, yes, there's a mindset issue. You haven't healed.
Right. Like there's something wrong, thus there needs to be something fixed if you're not okay.
Yeah,
And the reality is that it's a very human, normal experience not to be okay. And it
yeah.
doesn't matter what position you're in, what title you hold, where you're at in your life, what abilities you have. We are not okay. And sometimes we're really not okay. And
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't need fixed. It needs
Mm-hmm.
witnessed. It needs
Mm-hmm.
honored. It needs space to move and breathe and transmute into
Yes,
power,
yes.
into inspiration, into um, just being in an energetic place. Like we also don't have to take the not okayness and make it into something good, right? Like
Yeah,
we
right,
don't need to
exactly.
do that either. But that's a part that is scary is that when there's not very many people even telling the truth to begin with, and that those of us who want and crave that, we also don't want fixed. Like it's not something that needs solved.
Yeah.
Now, suffering doesn't feel good. Like this is one thing I realized this year as and that was finally why I'm an Aries, so I'm a little stubborn at
Oh.
times. Um, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I am suffering. I do not deserve to suffer like this. And then I took a new approach to how do I now get myself supported to minimize suffering as much as possible,
Yes.
right? So like
Yes.
during that period of time, I applied for a job. I
Yeah.
totally considered walking away from my business. I'm
Yeah.
really glad I didn't get the job because that wasn't actually the thing that was going to reduce my suffering. I was just like, look, check my ego at the door. I don't care anymore. Whatever it takes. I don't need to suffer. I don't have to do this.
Right, right.
Throw me a bone, universe. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this the suffering piece, like I hear you. Like I feel like what I feel like I'm good at is like experiencing the pain. Like when
Mm,
it comes to the voices in my head that tell me like, oh, you're nobody or you're a fake, I don't like I don't I don't play that record. I'm just kind of like, no, no, thank you. Right. I'm really good at that part. But there was a lot of pain. There was
mm,
just a lot of like, there was just a lot of shit to move. And like, like, I was observing those parts of myself. I wasn't believing my thoughts, but fuck, was my mind going so fast? And I was like, wow, I'm tired of listening to you. I'm tired of like observing you. I'm tired of just like hanging out with you. That's sort of where my heaviness was coming from, of like, this is so much to process. Like I'm just observing, and I'm freaking observing a lot. A
mm-hmm,
lot is happening there.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas before it would be like, oh, occasional, come in, yeah, mm-hmm. But it was like dun, 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 dun.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when it's that much, you can't process that in real time without external support. Like it's just,
Yeah.
I don't think that it's humanly possible. If anyone listens to this and thinks that it is or has that, I'm like,
Yeah.
please look me up.
Yeah.
Um, but I really appreciate what you're talking about because that was an interesting place for me to be in this year. Also, being like, I was also like in observer mode of like noticing. It wasn't lost on me. I was aware,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I also wasn't successfully able to move myself to a place of less suffering and feeling more connected to my true essence most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
it got worse and worse. And it was almost like the observation kept going at like a higher level.
Yes.
And then I was like, but I was still so far away. And I don't mean disassociation. I can tell you know what I mean.
Yes.
Um, and I'm so very glad that I was able to get connected with my amazing trauma therapist, because she has been able to ask me questions or reflect things back to me that I was aware of, but I needed something else than what was already happening. You know how we end up with these patterns in our brain or patterns in our
Yes.
behavior, and or like we try these things, right? And I'd already burnt myself out on things that weren't working.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great indication of when you need some kind of external support
Yeah.
when nothing's working.
Yeah. All the tools and strategies are null and obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were able to find new ways.
Well, honestly, I needed to start medication for anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
My nervous system was just shot.
Yeah.
And, even though I'm really well versed on different ways to regulate, they weren't like my nervous system was just, it was too shot.
Mm-hmm.
I had too much going on. And I'm only a couple weeks now utilizing anxiety medication. I haven't needed meds for, oh man, 10 years,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which was also something to like talk about like some ego stuff. And then here's another thing. It's like, it's okay for you to need medications, but not for me. It's okay for
Right.
you to not be okay, but not for me. It's okay for you to make mistakes, but not for me. So, again, I thought I had moved past. This is another stuff like things that I thought I had already moved through as a leader.
Yes.
That where I was like, oh, this is still there, huh? Okay, well, I thought I knew myself, or I thought I was aware enough to not like. Anyway, so I think that's where the panic attacks knocking on the door. I just was like, I don't have to suffer like this. And it had like my ability to function and show up in my business
Yeah.
has like dramatically impacted what I have been able to do and create. Now, it's been a hard year as far as sales have gone for a lot of people, me
Mm-hmm.
included. I think some people are killing it or they're lying. I can't tell. Um, so that was a really important thing for me. And then the other thing has been is that has then allowed me to get better sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
my subconscious is just like on overdrive trying to keep me safe with
Wow.
all
Yes.
sorts of stuff. Like last night in
Yes.
the middle of the night, this has been happening a couple times. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was certain I could hear people whispering in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And this is twice in the last week, and it's just a sound that my brain is not. It turned out my dog was snoring.
Yeah.
That was the sound, right? But I woke up heart racing like an intruder was in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just been really interesting to notice, like, and I took I also was like, okay, well, intellectual information provides psychological safety. And this is always helpful. And I teach this stuff and I'm like in it. And so I took a certification program to get more credentials around understanding trauma. And just being in the class
Yeah.
and listening to the information, I was absorbing it in a different kind of way. And so just even I don't know, I found that to be really interesting and intriguing. Uh, it doesn't fix anything, but at least like one of the things in this training that really what seemed profound for me, because I'm always like, how the fuck did this happen, right? There's a part of me as a trauma survivor. I need to know how and why things happen so that then I can know how to care for myself and
Yeah.
advocate for myself and
Yeah.
be okay as much as I
Yeah.
can be okay.
Yeah.
And they kind of talked about how when we lose connection with hope.
Yes. So I'm just going to turn on the light here because
Yeah,
it's a little
sure.
bit.
And because of the way that things had sequenced in my life, There wasn't a corner of my life where I felt really connected to hope.
Yeah,
And that uh, was,
that's hard.
that is hard. And that, that kept me from being able to access even the parts of myself that feel like me.
Hmm.
Like it's been weird to be in my body and moving around,
Yeah,
and knowing I'm a joyful, happy, um, excitable person who likes to solve problems and gets curious and has ideas and is energetic, and
yeah,
then to like that not be, I couldn't access that part.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the hope piece, um, yeah, there's a big piece around hope.
I noticed that too this year that, I don't go into hopeless places. Like you said, it has, when I felt depressed, it was like 10 years ago when I was really physically ill, when I was really like in the midst of battling my chronic illness. And that part of my resilience is just really, it's not positivity. It is just like going with the flow, right? Like something happens and I was like, okay, pivot, shift, right? Like just kind of like move with what's coming. And I found myself this year, and I was with an ex-partner when it was happening. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm noticing all of these really dark thoughts, like existential wobbles is what I call them. Like
Mm.
really thoughts about a lot of death and dying, a lot of like, hey, if I, I'm kind of like, I'm okay with like leaving the earth pretty soon because it's kind of hard. Like, and it
Right.
would show up kind of in this very benign way, like, yeah, I could go. Like it would be okay. And I was just like, no, because I fucking love life. Like I love being here and I love experiencing things. And when those places would come in, I was like, huh, that hasn't been around for a long time, you
What
know?
is that? Yes.
Yeah, right?
Same for me. I spent 9 months like, what's the point of being alive? Like, I don't really understand. I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah,
but
why are we
why?
doing
Why?
this?
Why would I? Why would I keep being alive? Like, what's
Yeah,
the point?
yeah,
And it felt. I love the way you describe that because I have been suicidal in the past,
yeah,
depressed and suicidal in the past, and that was a part of what was confusing for me this year. I'm like, I am not depressed, right?
yeah,
Like, still love my work and I get engaged. Like, I can't focus. I
yeah,
can't. I'm having like these other things that were happening, right? And so, and then I was having this existential wobbling for you. Part of it for me was like, okay, well, I'm 40 now and I've had issues with infertility and I'm fully complete with my desire for motherhood anymore. And I've let that go. I still experience some grief around it. But I'm actually at the point where I'm like really excited that I don't have kids. I don't know how I would have managed this year if I had littles to care for, like dependent littles.
yeah.
Holy shit, it's already been hard enough, just me and my husband and my dog. Um, but and for me, there was a piece of that. It's like, I'm not a mom, so no one will care for me. I won't need to care for anyone. I won't like, okay,
Oh,
I'm
got it.
building a legacy, but
Yes.
why?
Right.
Who's gonna care? I don't want to be, because I was a social worker. I worked in geriatrics in
Yeah.
my social work career, spent a lot of time in hospice and nursing homes. And I want to be with people. Like, I need connection. I need to matter,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yes.
it's like, I don't know. There was this part, and I was suffering and I wasn't feeling good. And then the world is just, it's awful out there. And it feels so bad, like the bigger picture of what's happening in humanity
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
well, that's not going to change in my lifetime. I can effort I can effort to create change around some of these things, but I'm just one human in one lifetime. And even though
Yeah.
that matters, I don't
Yeah.
know. But then that was like, these are scary thoughts, and I need to be paying attention to the fact that this is happening. But then I had this self awareness of like, I don't want to die though,
Yeah.
but I don't care if I do.
And I swear, Lisa, like this felt
Oh,
like as I was going through it, sorry, I just didn't account for it getting so dark
no, no, it's
so
that time
soon.
change stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But something that I was aware of that kept kept me in that sort of kept me going was the awareness that this was more than just me. I knew that this was collective. Like I knew that I was taking in part of like, yes, ancestry, right? There was ancestral stuff coming up, but I knew that what I was feeling was also collective.
Mm,
So I knew not to personalize it. And it was just fascinating to me to feel this. And then to later, like I didn't know this for sure, but I sensed it was collective. And then people started like recently, like just really since I would say August, September, October, starting to talk about it.
mhm.
Because prior to that, we were all kind of like, we were just kind of like holding it and just kind of getting through and seeing like, oh, it's going to change. And it wasn't changing.
Right,
And then finally, we're like, we're fucking tired.
right.
And we all just sort of came out at the same time to say it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think
And
so.
yeah. And so it's like, I think that for the sensitive people in the world, for the deep feelers, like we were experiencing that. We were really like, it was more than just personal, right? Yet, yes, we had, trauma coming up. We had our own sort of like processes happening, resurgences of those things, but this was also like part of the collective transmutation of
Mm,
shadow, like the collective shadow.
mhm. And also, I feel like it was you said transmutation. Um, I can't find the word that I want, but to me, it has felt like a calling or a rising up of a new wave of leadership.
Yes.
And that's a term I've been using because it feels like it systemically, we need a different way of leading.
Yeah.
We need new pathways of leaders and how we're showing up because the systemic change that is required means leadership is going to have to change, right?
Right.
The traditional leadership models are connected to systems of oppression and white supremacy and all of these things. And so it's like, yeah. And so it's like, some of us were able to get here to be more telling the truth. If people haven't, or that is not the path, I think that's okay. But it feels like there's a shift that's happening, and it's an opportunity. And it's
Hmm.
scary though, because
Yeah.
what are we doing? We're paving the path. We're like
Yes.
carving. We're with the machete in the jungle,
Yes.
chopping down the path, right? Like we're in it. Like
Yeah.
there's no way to create the path unless we're actually actively working on creating the path, which
Yeah.
is also new territory. It's new
Yeah.
territory. I mean, I've talked about leadership in the past and like make sure you have things settled before you start talking about them publicly. Well, I was wrong. I don't know. Like there is something about not processing your stuff publicly, like using the public or a public forum to do your healing and do your processing.
Right.
I still don't think that's a solid approach or
Yeah.
health.
There's a way that we can hold it and still share it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So here we are.
Yes. So new wave leadership. This is the conversation we're having today about like
Mm,
leading from our humanity, leading with our truth, which is sometimes messy, right? Life is messy as fuck, right? It's not slowing down. And we're really having to honor the places where we are injured, the places we're tending to in ourselves. We're having to be self-responsible about, the missteps or the mistakes we make and cleaning them up. Like I feel like that's all what you're describing. The conversation we're having is really about the some accountability, accountability to our humanity, right? Isn't that right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I like that accountability to our humanity. Because how do we honor it if we can't
yeah,
be accountable to it? And
yeah,
the reality is that we will make mistakes,
yeah,
and we are learning, and that's a big part. Accountability is a big part, I believe, of being um, a leader who's not contributing to creating harm.
yeah, yeah,
Right? Because
absolutely.
if we honor our humanity, well, then we make mistakes. We hurt people. We have to go
Exactly.
clean it up.
Yes.
And then we also show that like that's okay and acceptable. And hurting people is it's not avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of the process. But
Yeah.
how we handle it then when it occurs, how we create trust and recreate
Yes.
safety and
Yes.
end up on the same page again, comes from it gets messy in there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little messy, right? And then what else do we have to do? We have to honor competing needs. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is not going to like this prioritization of certain people get to have their needs met, and like that's okay. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's making any sense, but
Yeah.
as leaders, we also should be able to prioritize the parts of ourselves that are messy,
Yeah.
and then not like keep showing up. Like so many people are we're not showing up because we don't think we can do it messy, or we
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing it messy. And it's also very uncomfortable to do it messy
Yes, it is.
because we are also not learning the skills of how to have it be messy, how to be accountable for self, how to create repair, how to move through the stuff that doesn't feel good between humans. Like that's already hard. Like as you know, your intimacy work, that's already hard in our personal lives.
Yeah.
We also don't know how to do that in our public, like professional lives, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Absolutely. Ah, Lisa, thank you so much for this conversation. This was really refreshing. And I hope that, for those of you listening, you're just like letting yourself breathe a sigh of relief. Like, yes, like all of you gets to be here. All of you gets to be part of your business. All of you gets to be part of your leadership. It's what people are craving to have affirmed within themselves. This is a way that the way that we allow ourselves to be seen allows others to be seen, and that is intimacy right there,
mhm.
in the way that we show up. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. It's
All
been
right.
such an honor.
Yes.